We're in Cardiff Bay. We're at Cardiff Bay Yacht Club. We've arrived on the boat for a week's maintenance. It's glorious weather, so we're going to take advantage of it by doing a deck job. This is our self-tacking jib track. It is a Pfeiffer Marine X-Track. We've got a problem with this part here. So here you can see we've got the slider that slides across the track. On the edges of each part of the slider are two rubbers. And those two rubbers have perished, so that should be a relatively simple job. He's already done them, I've missed it. Maybe I can have a look for the old ones in a minute. But the other job is this in the centre of the screen. It's the stoppers, so we can adjust them to the holes on the track and put them in the position that we require when we're sailing. Unfortunately, the one that was on our starboard side of the boat had got stuck in a hole, and we need to replace that one, so we decided we'd replace both of them. So at the moment, we're trying to work our way through releasing this X-Track so that we can slide the parts off the end to do the replacement. I think Alan's looking at how we release the centre of the track from the fixings. I'm just going to see if I can find those end stops. Here you can see the rubber end stops. They've been sort of perished, we think, just by UV degradation. So this one has got a part missing, that's the other one. It's difficult to see in the light, but it's all sort of cracked and perished around the edges. So it's quite an easy job. They just pulled out and we pushed the new ones in. So that's that job already done. Okay, so the centre of our jib track is held on, if Alan just points to it,
I don't want pointing at
the thing that's holding the centre of the jib track, the bit that you're undoing.
So there's two bolts there and there.
Okay, so there's two bolts that come through the track.
Into this mechanism, this structure here.
Okay.
Then bolts onto the boat.
Okay, so the bolts that go through the X-Track go into a little stainless steel bracket. So we're trying to undo those so that we can free the centre of the track from being pinned down. And then further back this way, you can see the end of the track. So there's some bolts going through into what looks like an aluminium holder. And the track just sort of slides into a shaped piece to hold it in position. So we're hoping when we've undone these and the one on the other side, we'll be able to slide the track across and then get the stoppers off to replace them.
The problem is that I need to undo this nut and bolt here so we can take this X-Track off. But you can't get to the nut without undoing this stainless steel nut and bolt here. So I'm undoing that one so I can then undo that one. I don't think you need to undo these for any other reason, but that's why I'm doing it.
Are they difficult to undo?
The stainless ones aren't they?
No. And you sprayed them all, didn't you, with some penetrant before we started work, just to try and make sure everything was freed up and released.
Loosen things up a bit.
Bit fiddly, isn't it?
That's all right, really. I mean, yeah, it's just there's plenty of room. I said that. I can't get anything on.
There we go. We've loosened the middle. Now we're trying to loosen these end bolts. I believe that these sort of stainless steel bolts go into an aluminium sort of shaped part on the other side, so it might be quite soft, the aluminium. So Alan's sort of taking his time going gently because he doesn't want to damage that as he takes these out. Well, this is a bit easier to access in the middle bit. They look like they might be quite long bolts. We don't seem to be putting up too much of a fight, which is a good thing. But as we said before, we put some penetrant on before just to try and loosen everything up. And they're out. There we go, one end free. Right, we're on to the port side now, doing the same job. Ooh, that's coming loose. So I think what I might do is put the camera down and just hold that for Alan while he undoes those belts. We don't want to break anything. So this is the sort of shaped part. Oh, Alan's hand there. This is the shaped part that was on the end that's come off. So you can see that there. It's held in with a sort of grub screw.
Clean that up.
Yeah, we need to clean it up. It looks like,
Yeah,
a bit of sealant might have been on it. Alan's got the new stopper there.
Sorry, there's a grub screw that holds it on place on the cross.
Yeah, I don't think they can hear you though, darling.
Oh, okay, well you say it then.
That's what I have, yeah. So this bit is the new part, isn't it? It's the new stopper. And so Alan's just about to take the old one off. We're then going to take the sliding car off. And then, oh, sorry, there it is. There's the other stopper just there. So if I just look at that, go on. Yeah, take it off. Moment of truth. Please say it fits, because I had to guess sizes. Well, I didn't guess, I measured, but, you know, excellent. So we'll take the car off. I don't know if there's any ball bearings or anything, no? Okay. And then the last stopper. Excellent. Sorry about this section being a voiceover. For some reason we forgot to turn the sound on. All that's really happening here is we are checking carefully to see that all the components are okay and that they're going to fit appropriately. So Alan starts by putting an adjustable stopper on. The next piece that goes in place is the traveller. It's the car that slides up and down and the jib sheet connects to, controlling the angle of the sail in the wind. And then the last piece that we need to put on is the final adjustable stopper. It was this stopper that we're replacing now that was locked in place. So now we have cured that, so we're ready to do the next step.
That goes back on there.
I think it goes the
The other way.
Yeah. So again, we managed to lose the sound, but here it's the stainless steel sort of end plate. We're cleaning off any old bits of compound that made sure we didn't get a galvanic reaction between the aluminium and the stainless steel. So we've cleaned the aluminium shaped piece. Now Alan's cleaning the stainless steel pieces. We're making sure everything is nice and clean, debris free, and then we can apply the Duralac between the two surfaces to make sure that we do not get galvanic corrosion in those areas. Seems to go well. Okay, we finished cleaning the stainless steel bracket that holds the extract in place. And over here, finished cleaning the aluminium holder. So we're about to use a product called Duralac to put the two together. Hang on, see if I can find it. And that's the product we're going to use to make sure that the two dissimilar metals don't corrode when we put them back together. Taking an opportunity here to clean some of this green off. We never see underneath this track, so this is a bit of a first really. Gives us a chance to clean it and inspect it, check everything's okay. Everything's looking good, isn't it? Just a bit grubby.
Yeah, slimy.
In this section you can see that we are applying Duralac to the aluminium shaped pieces. Alan's applying this with a pair of gloves just to make sure he doesn't have any reactions on his skin. You need to apply a very sort of even, fairly liberal layer over all the areas. You want to make absolutely sure you've got no contact between the stainless and the aluminium. So Alan is really carefully spreading that out with his fingertips to make sure that we get even coverage throughout that part. You will need to do this on both sides, obviously, and once it's evenly coated, we can then start to put those pieces back together and reassemble the rail. So here Alan is just putting those pieces back together. It's just a case then of us holding them, getting them all lined up and reinserting the bolts. Wish us luck. I forgot to mention that before we put it all back together, Alan is just making sure that the small grub screw that holds this in place is just sort of loosely into its hole and lined up, not cross-threaded or anything, because it's much easier to put it in now than it is once we've assembled the piece, because you can actually see what you're doing. And here's the assembly. That goes on nicely. Just got to make these parts up and put the bolts in. Well, the track is back in position. Alan's put the bolts in. We didn't film it because it took two of us to do it, but it was relatively straightforward. We put the bolts very loosely in at one end without tightening the grub screw. Made sure we lined up the two centre plates that went into their hole placeholders, pushed them in, and then we lined up this end as well. You need to remember to put the aluminium shape holder back on before you do this, otherwise you won't be able to get it on. And then put two bolts in loosely this end. Once everything was lined up, we're just going around now tightening everything up, putting bolts back in place. But actually, it seems to have gone back easier than I was expecting. Ooh, they slide! And everything's had a bit of a check. The stop buttons are working. You can actually lift them and move them now, which we couldn't before. Just on our last sail in, that seized up, so we're quite lucky really. Last sail of the season. So now we'll just finish tidying up, finish tightening up a few nuts and bolts, and the job is done. It was actually easier than we expected, and I think if we needed to do some maintenance on the track in the future, we probably wouldn't leave it as long, knowing that it wasn't that bad.
Morning everyone. I've just been told that Bono always wears shades because he's got glaucoma.
So that means you're a rock star.
Basically means I'm a rock star.
Okay.
This morning's job, there's never an end to jobs, which is why we love sailing. This morning's job is replace our speed controller. The problem we've got is that this broke off. Our little button for putting it into neutral broke off. And this is just a bit of plastic. I don't know whether you can see that.
Yeah, you can.
But it's just a bit of plastic. We tried using an adhesive, but that didn't work. So we've had to buy the whole new unit. It's quite expensive. So we're going to take it off. We can't just take the handle off. We have got a replacement handle, but you can't just take that off because they've improved the design. And this bit is now made of metal, so it's a massive improvement on the design. So we're going to take that off, take the cover off, unscrew the mechanism at the back, take the control wires off because this controls the gear and the throttle, and then hopefully just do it all in reverse. I said this is expensive, but we bought the original part. You can buy cheaper controls, but they're a different size, so it would mean cutting out a bigger hole, and we just didn't fancy that. So, and there's nothing wrong with this in reality, except for that
Stupid
disappointing design
That's
flaw,
our neutral button.
which they've now improved. So, so that's the job for today. I've eased this off just with a screwdriver, and it's been sealed in with I assume it's Sikaflex, which is really effective. I mean, the boat's 19 years old and we've never had a leak from here. And then just these 4 pins on the back, which is what we've got on the new one. So we'll have to, I think we'll probably do the same and just put a layer of sealant around there just to make sure it doesn't leak. But very effective.
Well, we have wrestled this mechanism out. It was a bit tricky, but mainly because we didn't really have any instructions for it, because it was fitted with the boat, so we didn't really understand how it was connected. But we've got it out. Here's the hole, and luckily the hole is the same size hole that we need to put the new one in. Alan's just freeing a small nut, and there's a sort of holding pin that goes on the top there. It's a bit seized on, so we've just had to put some penetrant on to get it off because we don't want to replace the cable. The cable's fine. We've got to have a good clean up. We're ready to fit a new one. I don't know if you can see this, but this little hole here, there's a cable, the control cable that runs through there. It's the throttle cable. We could not get it out when it was in situ at all, and the reason was this thing. So this is behind here, and then I don't know if you can see it, but when it's behind there, there's sort of a hole that runs through, and that hole, I don't know if this is very helpful actually. Try zooming out. This hole here, that cable was going through there, so it was trapped. We did not realise I had to get this out for it to drop back out of that slot. It took us about 2 hours. Still, it's out now. We're now in the clean-up phase, ready to fit the new one.
Well, this is maddening. We've got the hole. It's the same size as the hole that was recommended by the instructions. And if it says put it in forward, and then put the gear in forward, and then slot this in the hole. This is inside, and have 2 of these on the outside, but it doesn't go through the hole. And we've tried it in every orientation. We've tried it in forward, in reverse, in neutral, and what it says is you put it in forward, and then you slot it in, and then once you get 2 of the holes in, you then put it in neutral, and then the other 2 will go in. But this is just way too big. So we're not totally sure. The hole's the right size, definitely, because we've double checked it. That's the hole there. That's the template there. But it's refusing to cooperate, which is very frustrating. We've tried every possible angle, but that construction on the back means that it just won't allow us to get those holes lined up. So I might just have to take that back plate off. I'll keep you posted.
The new single lever controller for the engine is in. We are just, or Alan is just, cleaning away the old black sealant that was around the outside, using a little bit of, well, it's actually nail varnish remover, because
don't say that.
The acetoner's at home and this is the best thing that we've got.
Oh, what's up?
This is a bit of nail varnish remover that we only keep on board for our daughters, which is really funny. But it's giving it a nice clean up, so we're getting it ready to seal the new plastic housing on the outside, and then the handle and the new button go on, and we are ready to rock and roll. I'm going to show you what was going wrong on the inside. In the end, the problem that we had with the cable was this cable. This is our throttle cable here. It was where this pin goes in. There is a slot in a throttle cable, and that slot has to exactly fit inside that U shape, and that pin has to go on. And I hadn't quite, when I fitted it, pushed it all the way in, and I think I was that the slot was sitting in the groove of the bend of the metal. So just that few millimetres difference, when we reset it and pushed it into position, so you can see it's reset. Now this, we've got some screw threads at the top, whereas originally we didn't have that on the old setting. So now this is a lot better. We've got the same on the gear cable too. So that's now all fixed at the back. We're getting perfect engine revs. I don't know if you can see me in here, it is quite dark. Maybe that helps. Yeah, I'm in the aft cabin. This is what we call our workshop. It's normally full of stuff, it's completely empty, but we've refitted that cable and now the revs are idling perfectly at 850. Super pleased with that job. Now we can just show you the finished result. Here's the finished article. We now have a new controller with a nice new red neutral button. Let's hope this one doesn't snap off. It's a much better design than the old one. It's got a metal holder instead of plastic. So hopefully we won't have a problem with it this time. It took a lot longer than we thought, but we're really pleased it's done.